I've always been allowed to use the computer as much as I want, and that was I think really important that I can just fiddle around with things. Like I know other people whose parents like they're into computer science now, but their parents didn't let them use computers when they were kids, and that really like limited them from reaching their potential because they only really got interested in programming once they got to high school or college and were allowed to use computers more, and immediately it hooked them, but it could have been earlier. So I'm glad that my parents didn't really restrict my computer usage. I mean, I spent massive amounts of time on the computer, but I was like fiddling with things and figuring things out, and I think that's the best way to learn, just trying things. What I really just needed is just like time just to play with things. But I do think it would be cool to kind of just introduce kids, like at least have kids like maybe in fifth or sixth grade, like make a simple website with HTML, like because you need to like some of these kids have never had an opportunity to get interested in it, and that might be it. I mean, I'm very much in favor of people learning things on their own and finding things that they like on their own. So like I think school can introduce them to that, but I don't think like teaching a computer science class to sixth graders is probably gonna do much good. You just need to give them the opportunity to discover it. I think is important.
The thing I like about the internet is it gives you almost universal access to information, and as someone who likes to gather a lot of information, uh, and that information doesn't have to be like academic or technical. The information can be more like socially oriented. So I like that I can go there and get any amount of information, however specific or in depth that I want, and consume that information. And then as its more technical definition, free software, and so free means you have access to the source code, not necessarily that it's like free of purchase. And when you have access to that source code and you have people who can view that source code, like say you find a bug in OS X, you file a bug report and then somebody in Apple might get around to it, might not, and you can't do anything about it because you don't have access to the source code, you can't fix it. And let's say you're very technical with computers and you know like what's wrong and how to fix it. With open source software, you could see that code and you could fix it right there. You could submit a patch to that bug. And especially with Linux operating systems, which are very community oriented, there is a bug like specifically for Debian, there's a bug tracking system, and you can go on there and view all of the bugs that people have submitted, and you can go in and you can patch it yourself. And when you have a large community working on like developing software and making it better, and you can see like if you're in a competitive mindset, you can see what's being done and how to improve it, and you can put out your own version of it, and it's a healthy sort of competition, and because it's not proprietary and it's open, it's one, more honest, two, since people can actually see what improvements you're making and what there was before, the changes that are made are meaningful and they're actually there to make results. Whereas in a closed source environment, you'll see like the software engineers are always on deadline to make any improvements. And those improvements a lot of times end up being fluff improvements that don't really improve the usability or the actual like under the hood efficiency of the programming. They're just stuff to throw in there to say that it's new and better. And that gets perpetuated long enough and you have not that good software. In an open source environment, it's more usability driven than profit driven, which I think is a better setup. And